It happened partially because the ideas of a long-forgotten cybernetician from Great Britain, who spent quite a lot of time in Chile working with Allende in the early 1970s, where he discovered and provided a nice theoretical background to designing systems that were robust, that were decentralized, and that were actually tasked for dealing with complexity.
It has this other cybernetic feature that if the program finds something fishy, something suspicious, some high probability of a change, a slope or a step function, it automatically homes in on the data and uses more of the past history and does more complicated analyses. This is all automatic.
Does that mean anything to you? This is the Watt steam governor that I've drawn a caricature of. So you've got a shaft which is whizzing around like that. Bzz. And if it goes too fast, centrifugal force drives these two weights out, which pulls this sleeve up, which cuts off the fuel supply. I think one of the earliest cybernetic inventions, because what this is doing, you'll notice, is keeping a runaway variable under control, but it brings it back into the control in the very process of it going out of control. It uses the fact of it's going out of control to bring it back into control, and you can be going having another beer in the bistro, instead of sitting around hoping against hope that you will spot the thing going wrong and beat it over the head before it's gone too far and you're all in jail.
Any control system looks practically like this. So you have like one system that you want to control. Then you decide what you can actually observe from the system. That's usually called the output. That's what you can measure or what you can observe. And this you compare with a reference that you have in mind, like this is how it should be, right? So what comes out is an error that you want to have to be zero. You want this error to go to zero. So, and then what you do is you put here like a controller, and this controller then has an input to the system. So this is what you can actually manipulate in a system. And then the question is how to design this controller. This is running the whole time, kind of. So you have to make these updates, like the observation, like all the time. This is kind of what you observe. This is what you compare it to. So this is the utopia you want to have. And then you want to reduce the difference between the real world and the utopia. And for example, and then this is what you can do about it. So this is all the influence that you have on the system. I mean, it can be anything. This is just very general. So this can be you, this can be a political measure, this can be anything.
Now, this should be 30, because we've set that as our target, and it keeps coming out as 29, 28, 27. Oh, you say that's too low, right? And you measure that, and you feed back here into the system, and you say, let's suppose you're more or less averaging 27, then the error signal says put another 3 in and lift this, and now you'll be nearer 30.
We have discovered, thanks to Stafford beer, the ability to manage complex systems by using technology itself rather than having to delegate that complexity out to the market or to the price system.
In 2 years, we had got roughly 60% of the state economy onto this system, using the viable system model, let's not forget that, to give the recursive picture into which all these data fit, so that we can take our data, look at them, and then pass them on to the next level of recursion, re-amalgamate them, these data, in a separate way appropriate to the model at that level of recursion. These data are then amalgamated again at the level of the sector so that we have our next level of recursion model of the viable system, again pushing out an account of itself to this point with the data feeding back to the sector. And again, the next level of recursion, the branch doing exactly the same thing. See, what we have done is to choose at which points to cut down variety so that it can get into the brain. Only people can do anything about anything. And they can't do it if their brains don't get the message. They need a huge variety attenuation. Now, in most of our society, this is done by accident. It's done by averages which swamp those little bits of information that give you most advanced warning. It's done by pressure, by lobbying people and urging a point of view rather than by data at all. All those things, I don't have to go through them. What I tried to do in Chile was to use the model to design, as I often put it, freedom, because this system was meant to put stuff where it was wanted. Nationalized industry, remember. These people need these materials, get them to them in time. These people need that, get it to them. These people can deliver to the public, help that to happen. All these points chosen and the whole thing given a management structure which could monitor such a thing with adequate variety, using, I repeat, clever computer programs and not just talking about electronic data processing and you want some information, we have some, you know, a printout this thick.
How is the viable system model organized? A basic pattern: two hierarchically equal entities that deal with their environment. Environment, production, management. A recursive structure composed of autonomous, coordinated parts. How does the system work? Example: a forestry company organized with the viable system. Production: wood is cut, then transported, and finally sold. Management: new info from market, communication between outside, future, and inside, present. Identity section makes sure ideas correspond to the structure's principle. Audit: audit request. Sector to audit. Monitoring. Feedback. Audit info. Audit report. Federation and coordination. Local coordination meeting. General coordination meeting. Feedback to local section.
As soon as you have, let's say, this one system multiple times at different places, then the perfect way to be resilient would be that they are like independent of each other and you are not relying on a central controller. So each system should work on its own.
You can learn what is common to all the disciplines about this topic of regulation, and in particular self-regulation, because we want to design our systems so that they would regulate themselves. This is known as autonomy, isn't it? Now, most people believe in autonomy as a political objective, and then it turns out you can't do it. After all, Mrs. Thatcher was always talking about autonomy and meanwhile grabbing all the power into London.
As we discovered how to navigate this complex terrain by using technology itself rather than some second-hand and inferior substitutes like the market, we actually managed to resolve quite a few of the outstanding problems. And experiences like Project Cybersyn, which is the name of the project that Beer ran in Chile, has been rediscovered, re-examined, studied quite closely, and turned into a textbook of some kind for those who were struggling to build systems for managing complexity for both national and global economies.
This means that in a pretty short time we had made all those recursive models fitting into each other like Chinese boxes. And of course the advantage of this is the enormous reduction of variety. I want to remind you, because you've probably forgotten by now with all this excitement, that we have a model of a viable system and that it is recursive.